Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this journey we are going through of Hajj with Sheikh Dr. Usama Al-Atar. Inshallah today, Sheikh, we are going to be discussing the 4 aïmas who are buried in Baqi, and it is very sad that we get very limited access to these aïmas, but we feel like we need to do them justice by at least discussing who they were, and learning a little bit about them, and hope to gain some spirituality through that. So if you just take us through the imams and tell us what was so special about each one of them.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala Muhammadin wa alihi al-Tahirin. We have, as you mentioned, 4 imams buried in Baqi', and the first one is Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba, salamullahi alayhi, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen, and Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. He is he's the first grandson of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, and about whom the Holy Prophet said, Al-Hasan wal-Husayn are the masters of the youth of Jannah. And he also said that Hassan and Hussein are imams, are the leaders, whether people put them in leadership position or they deprive them of the leadership position. When he was born, the Prophet hugged him, loved him, and Allah named him Al-Hasan, so he named him Al-Hasan. And he was raised with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, and shortly after Imam al-Hussein was born as well, so the Prophet raised both of them. And he trained both of them to become leaders by involving them in serious and important religious and political matters. For example, in the event of Mubahalah, when the Christians of Najran came and they wanted to have the debate with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, which led to the event of Mubahalah, the invocation, the Prophet brings Hassan and Hussein alayhim salam as our children, and Fatima as our women, and Ali ibn Abi Talib as ourselves. Involving these children at that young age in such a big, important religious discussion and political event brings, some sense of responsibility. The Prophet is trying to educate them so that they would grow into the imams that they need to become. In the event of the cloak, the Prophet ﷺ adds Hassan and Hussein alayhim salam again with Ali and Fatima, and he says, "Oh Allah, these are my family, these are Ahlul Bayt, purify them thoroughly, remove all impurities away from them." And so Ayatul Tathir, number 33 of Surah number 33, was revealed about them. So now he's also included in this. In the event of Surah Al-Dahr, where Fatima alayhi salam, or Surah Al-Insan, and Imam Ali alayhi salam fasted for 3 consecutive days, Hassan and Hussein alayhi salam also fast. When they saw their father and mother giving up their food for the needy, for the destitute, for the orphan, for the prisoner, that teaches them about sacrifice, about giving, and hence you find them both growing up. One of the titles of Imam al-Hasan is Karimu Ahlul Bayt, the generous one of Ahlul Bayt, because he used to give out generously. Several times he would give everything he has for the sake of Allah. It is said 3 times he gave everything. He distributed everything he had for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was very generous. So he learned this, from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, from the teachings of his grandfather, mother and father. So the Prophet ﷺ raised them as imams with that installation of leadership within them. And that's something interesting, because today's psychologists teach us or tell us that when you raise children, you try to kind of always give them compliments about the good actions they do. Try to give them some tasks and roles and responsibilities so that inshallah they become independent and have that strength. The Prophet did that with these things, with these great imams. So these were raised like this. And then Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam also witnessed the tragedy of the loss of the Prophet, the tragedy of the loss of his mother. So looking at all these events, we find that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised al-Hasan wal-Husayn alayhim salam to be the leaders they came, and the generous individuals and the great characters and the personalities they became.
Now there is these sometimes feelings that Imam Hussein is given a lot more credit because of the sacrifice that he went through, and undoubtedly it was the greatest sacrifice that ever happened. And Imam Hassan is not given that much of a credit, even though his sacrifice in its own way of peace treaty was equally important for the time. Can you help us understand that concept?
Imam Hassan salamullahi alayhi, his stand is no less than Imam Hussein's sacrifice. Imam Hassan saved Islam through the peace treaty. Imam Hussein saved it through the revolution. The peace treaty exposed Muawiyah because Muawiyah was hidden. On the public image, he had a good image as a pious man, as a virtuous. Unlike his son Yazid, Muawiyah used to keep a good public image. Only those who knew who he was would recognize how the evil he was behind. So Imam al-Hassan's peace treaty revealed the true nature of Muawiyah. When Muawiyah came and he said, I did not fight against you people just to teach you how to pray or fight. I don't really care about it. I fought so that I become your king. Right there he exposed him. So Imam al-Hassan, his peace treaty saved Islam, and it laid the foundation for the revolution of Imam al-Hussein. Without Imam al-Hassan's treaty, salamullahi alayhi, there would not have been a revolution of Hussein, salamullahi alayhi.
That being so, do you think then, as followers of the two Imams, who in every manner have been given equal status in front of Allah, that we don't do justice in the way we commemorate? Because obviously we commemorate Imam Hussein in the best of manners, and yet it's only one day in a year that we mourn Imam Hassan. And even today, if you think about it, really he is the madhulum, because we can't even go to his grave.
Yes.
So what do we do to do justice to this Imam?
We have some of our ulama now who are propagating the idea of the 10th of Hassaniyya, not the 10th of Husayniyya, the 10th of Muharram. So the 10th of Hassaniyya, which is the start of Safar, to the 10th of Safar, which also coincides with the wafat of Sayyida Ruqayyah, the daughter of Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. So that Hassani period of 10 days or 10 nights commemorating his wafat. Indeed, we have to learn a lot about Imam al-Hassan. As I mentioned, he is the master, one of the masters of the youth of Jannah. He is the Imam, whether people put him in leadership position or deprive him of leadership position. So indeed, he played a huge role, and his akhlaq, his generosity. This was the Prophet's grandson, but he was such a great individual and personality, a very brave warrior. He fought with his father in Jamal and in Siffin and in Nahrawan. So this great character, and unfortunately he died at a young age. He was only about 50 years old when he left this dunya, or about 48 years old when he left this dunya. So he did not live long, but within this short time he gave us so much. Then we have in Baqi' Imam Zainul Abidin al-Sajjad alayhi salam. He is the second Imam buried in Baqi'. He is the son of Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. His mother was a Persian princess, the daughter of the Persian king, and when Persia collapsed, they brought her as a prisoner, and Amir al-Mu'mineen went to the second Khalifa and told him that the hadith of the Prophet says that those who are honorable should not be humiliated. She is the princess, daughter of a king. Although they were non-Muslims and you fought against them and you won, does not mean you humiliate her by selling her as a slave. So he said, what shall we do? He said, you let them go and they choose if they want to have a spouse. So she chose Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam as a husband, and she gave birth to Imam al-Sajjad. Her name was Shahr Banu, and she died shortly after delivering Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam. So Imam al-Sajjad was an orphan from the mother's end. There was another lady who raised Imam al-Sajjad, and he used to call her mother as well. So sometimes historians confuse the term mother. But he grew up with his father, Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi. He was about 21, 22 approximately years old in Karbala. He was extremely ill, could not fight in the battle, but he witnessed the whole tragedy, and then he came back to Medina, and for about 35 or so years, because Imam al-Hussein died in the year 61 after Hijrah, Imam al-Sajjad died and was martyred by al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. Walid poisoned Imam al-Sajjad in the year 95 after Hijrah. So about 35 years he stayed in Medina, and through dua he started illuminating the path of and hearts of minds of people. Through the purchasing an education of slaves and freeing them. It is said he freed more than 1,000 slaves. That's 1,000 people whom he's educated and taught and trained. And through commemorating the tragedy of Karbala. So he would commemorate and encourage people to commemorate. So Imam al-Sajjad played a vital role in spreading the message of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and keeping it alive. And he has left us a great treasure like the Sahifa al-Sajjadiyah, which unfortunately many of us Shi'as don't pay much attention to, when it contains so many gems, many du'as about your children, about your parents, dua for rizq and sustenance, dua on a daily basis, dua of Saturday, Sunday, Monday, etc. Beautiful du'as. We should really not just have a copy of it in our homes, but read it on a regular basis. And he also left us the Charter of Rights, which is a phenomenal Charter of Rights. One should read it because it goes beyond just our obligations as individuals within the society, but rather within the house and within myself, the right of my eyes, the right of my ears, and so on and so forth. So he left us that great treasure, and he unfortunately was poisoned in the year 95 after Hijrah and left this dunya. And that is the second Imam who is buried in Baqi'.
And then, of course, we have the fifth Imam, who is again the son of the fourth Imam, who is also buried in Baqi'. Tell us about him.
Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam, the son of Ali ibn al-Hussein al-Sajjad, and his mother is Fatima, the daughter of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. So he is Hassani from the mother, Husseini from the father. And he was born also in Medina. He was about 3 or 4 years old in Karbala. So he witnessed the tragedy of Karbala as well. After his father, he started teaching and educating people about the school of Ahlul Bayt, which is the school of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is something important to recognize and realize. Ahlul Bayt, sometimes, and shortly we'll talk about Imam al-Sadiq, we say that al-madhhab al-Ja'fari, the madhhab of Imam, it's not the madhhab of Imam al-Sadiq, it's the madhhab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The founder is Rasulullah. What the Imams did, Imam al-Baqir and al-Sadiq, was build on that foundation, educate, because the Umayyad dynasty was undergoing some revolutions, internal conflicts. It weakened them a little bit, which gave an ability of Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq to teach. And hence, if we take a look at the books of ahadith in the Shia school of thought, like Al-Kafi, for example, by Sheikh al-Kulayni, you find the majority of the ahadith are from al-Baqir and al-Sadiq alayhim as-salam. The ahadith narrated from those two Imams exceed the rest of the Imams because they had the ability to teach and have a lot of students. So Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam lived in Medina, started teaching, educating people about the school of Ahlul Bayt, the true laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, until unfortunately he was martyred or ordered to be poisoned by the Umayyad ruler at the time, Hisham ibn Abdul Malik. Hisham ibn Abdul Malik was extremely arrogant, and he ordered the poisoning of Al-Imam al-Baqir salamullahi alayhi. Interestingly, during the time of Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam and Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, there was a ruler by the name of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. He experienced what is known as the currency crisis. The Muslims used to import their coins from the Romans. One day a dispute happened between the Khalifa Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and the Roman Caesar. So the Caesar threatened the Umayyad ruler that what I'm going to do, I'm going to print an anti-Islamic slogan, demeaning to your prophet on these coins, and you guys will have no way but to use it. Now the Khalifa got really stressed out. He said, what shall we do? No one gave him an answer. One of his advisors told him, there is one man who can answer you. He said, who? He said, is it safe for me to say who it is? He said, yes. He said, Ali ibn al-Hussein. He said, how could I miss that? Call him. So they call upon Imam al-Sajjad. Imam al-Sajjad sends Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam as an ambassador. He comes to Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. He says, invite the goldsmiths. So they bring the goldsmiths. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam teaches them how to mint the coins, how much they should weigh, what's a golden coin, what's a silver coin, how much they should weigh, and how to mint it. And so he teaches them and he saves the Muslims. So they started minting their own coins. And then the Khalifa wrote to the Caesar, said, we don't need your coins anymore. So that is known as the currency crisis, قضية النقد. And Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sajjad saved the Muslims during this currency crisis.
That's an absolutely lovely story to have heard. We would like to talk about the sixth Imam. Inshallah, we'll continue that tomorrow because we've run out of time today. Thank you very much for watching, and inshallah, tune in tomorrow to get a little more of our sixth Imam. Thank you.
أن أكون لك عبدا وكفى بي فخرا